Hello and welcome to More Than Footy, your official Sydney Swans podcast brought to you by Bing Lee. I'm your host, Tom Chadwick, and joining me is co-host Andre Cupido.
Chatty, 3 days away from opening round, plenty of excitement. We're going to get away with a bit of a mini episode of More Than Footy presented by Bing Lee, and what better person to preview our first game of 2026 than the man himself, Dean Cox. Welcome, Coxy.
Andre, Tom, how you going?
How you feeling, mate?
First time he's...
Andre and Tom.
Yeah,
Are you in
very
game mode?
formal.
Well,
Very
I don't know.
formal.
That's how you introduced him, so I was following that.
How you feeling, mate? A few days out? Nervous? Anticipation? How you feeling?
Oh, yeah, a little bit nervous. Probably more excited. I think the opportunity of opening round and what it means to the state, the work that we've put in to present ourselves in the best shape possible is probably one thing I'm excited about, and also the uncertainty and unknown part of what a football season holds.
Do you feel like the players are aware of the magnitude of opening round and what it means to footy in New South Wales in this footy club?
Yeah, I do. The players speak about it from pretty much once they get back from Christmas, the opportunity it does present, but also the responsibility we have with that opportunity. We need to make sure that we're putting on the best show we possibly can for to open season 26.
And before we talk about, I guess, the ins and outs of Carlton and what the night's going to look like, what are some of the footy takeaways from the pre-season here at the Swans? What have you liked from us so far?
I think we've had majority of our players and core players have done most of the training load. So I think that's one thing that you want as a coach is to make sure how the players present, how do they front up, and then what work can we get into them. And they've done a lot of work. They've played a lot of minutes over the match play simulation throughout intra-club process and then also through the 2 practice games. So, it's a little bit different than last year. I rested some leading into the opening round. This year we played majority of our team because we want to make sure that, we're ready for Thursday night.
I want to chat about the game plan, obviously not giving away too many trade secrets ahead of the season. But Paps was on the podcast last week and he actually said it was probably the most education he's had in his 10 years in his footy career from developing the footy IQ around the game plan. I just want to ask you the approach to the game plan change and how you think the players have embraced that over the course of the off-season.
The players have been phenomenal with their appetite and aptitude towards wanting to learn. And I think certainly when we presented first day back, some new look of the way we want to play, they're excited about. And then on top of that, to be able to add some personnel both in the playing and coaching ranks. I think probably for the last month, once I said to the players, once we couldn't play finals, it was mathematically impossible. We can't waste this opportunity for 26. We need to look at our game and adjustments we want to make and try and implement them throughout the back part of the year, which is something we did. And then we had a chance to really review it and go, is it going to stand up? What does it look like? How do we try and educate it? But then how do we allow the players to be able to play within that system? So that happened. And then once we get to the off season, there was time to be able to work out, who's doing what role, how are we going to try and implement it, and then how do we educate to the players so when they get to game day or a training session, they know what they're doing.
You mentioned adjustments. What type of game trends do you feel as though you're going to see in 2026 across the board, all 18 clubs?
I think the game's going to go quicker. We're certainly going to try and do that. I think all clubs are doing it from watching.
As in speed of ball movement?
Yeah. I think the way that the sides certainly attack will be different, but there'll be a bit more of an attacking flair to the game, I think. I'm not saying that, we've focused really heavily on our defence and contest method as well, but some areas, if you are going to move it quicker, how do you defend behind it? If you do create turnovers, where are they that you've created them to then maximise your offensive play from that?
I've heard a lot of coaches early seasons, they talk about, or early in the season, I should say, they talk about building foundations, playing the way they want to play, not necessarily, wins and losses are really important, but just getting their principles, values right. How do you balance that, particularly with the changing game and rule changes? How do you balance just focusing on what the Swans brand of footy looks like?
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time on our Swans brand. I think with that, But the hard part when you're doing it against yourself.
Yeah.
And the players that you're doing against know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, and as much as, Carlton and Brisbane and Hawthorn, we'll look into them and dive into them about what their strengths are, areas that we can try and target. Have there been any trends with the way that they've changed? What is it that they're doing differently? So we'll look into that, and they'll do it for us as well. But when you're training it against yourself, it can seem clunky, or you think at times it's not working, but you sort of get to the Bulldogs and then you get to the Giants and go, okay, well, some of the stuff we've been working on, actually, we can implement in games, and the players are well aware of that.
So speaking of which, did you take anything out of Origin when you were coaching Western Australia? Obviously, you're coaching Chad, but you've also got a handful of other players from other clubs. Did you learn anything from them?
Oh, I think you're always learning. I think certainly the way they approach, the way they talk about the game, they're of the highest calibre for a reason. So, the preparation they put in, but also the understanding of what they need to do at a certain time of the game, and the dialogue between all the players was of the highest level. So, that's probably one thing that I loved about it. Also about the different characters and the personality of the locker room.
Did anyone surprise you?
I was going to ask that,
Did you go into it thinking, geez, and then all of a sudden his footy's IQ is through the roof?
No, I think all of them were high IQ. Okay. Some were quieter than others. Some, like a Bradley Hill and the like, they'll sort of Charlie Cameron and the like, they'd be sort of boisterous all the way through it. Jordan Clark was very vocal, and then it was a really good mix and a blend, and it was just a great opportunity to be able to coach those players, but also to spend some time with people from other footy programs as well.
You touch on that, and now I want to bring you back to the footy club with the likes of Simon Goodwin, who's come goodie, Nick Malcheski, Jeremy Laidler. What impact have they had, not only on the program itself, but you as a coach as well?
Oh, they've had a huge impact in such a short period of time. I think last year, we were some probably coaches down on what we'd had previously, and the ability to be able to add talent off the field is just as important as adding it on. And one thing we did was the opportunity to be able to speak to Simon throughout the back part of last season and the off season to try and acquire his services. I saw with Don, ex-senior coaches still working really well with current senior coaches in programs, and I'll be the first to admit I don't know everything. I'm pretty firm on the way we want to do things, but the best thing about Goody is he's coached for 11 years as a senior coach, and he's a premiership coach, and has got some fantastic ideas, and more importantly, just sort of will challenge me in different ways. Or have you thought about doing it this way, or what about that? Or it's just a different person to come to you, as well as Lades and Mao. They've been at really good footy programs in the Giants and the Suns as well. So, I think we've added extremely well in the off-field sense to hopefully help on-field.
Just want to ask quickly, so you're sitting around a table talking game plan, whatever else. How do those conversations happen in terms of picking up Simon's brain, or picking up something Jeremy said? How do those conversations happen, and are you essentially just the decision maker when those conversations happen? Is that how it goes?
Yeah, we'll sort of, one thing we wanted to do with the way, when you structure up the way you want your team to look like in a game plan, is when you get fresh eyes, they come in, I sort of send them away and go, you two work together and come up with how you would beat us, what you thought our strengths were, areas you think we need to improve in, and then I want them to do that separately. I don't think there's too many times you can have like a consultant, if you call, come in and actually have a full look at the way they would do things against us. So we did all that, and then we come back together and talk, and pretty much a lot of it was very similar to what we thought to what they thought. So then it's straight over, this is really good, we're on the same path, we understand what we need to do. It's just now, how do we strip that back and, really allow the players to be able to play that certain way of footy, and then from that, how are we going to challenge each other, how are we going to hold each other accountable, and then how are we going to reward some of the stuff that, we've put in place.
So we got you in here because we're a few days out from opening round. What have you observed about Carlton in the pre-season? They've been good.
They've been good, yeah. They've been really good. To play both grand final teams and beat them. I think they've been really impressive, and obviously with some of the talent from other clubs that they've acquired as well, but also getting some of the players like Walsh and obviously Smith that coming off an ACL.
Jagger Smith.
Yeah, he looks like an unbelievable young footballer.
Kind of looks like a bit of a Nick Dacos.
The way that he moves, absolutely.
And can't kick super long, but the way he moves on angles looks like a very good player for the next
and you
10
can
years.
see you can see why they were so excited about him when they got him, but also to have him back. He looks fit, so they're playing a little bit differently, and we've looked at some of those trends across the first couple of games and what difference that is compared to their 2025 season, and we just got to make sure our players are aware of that. And then how we try and combat that, but also on top of that, how can we try and exploit when we get that opportunity?
Obvious too is Will and Ollie. I'm not going to ask you about those two, but there's been times where teams have players go to another club to play against them. You'd be very conscious that they would understand our game plan the way we do things, right? Is that a consideration for you, knowing that you've got some former players that you're playing against, they'll know how you want to play? Or is it just kind of like, no, we're going to focus on what we need to do to win this football match?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, most clubs will know how other clubs play. The finer detail of that, players might have a little bit more of an idea if they've been within your four walls.
Yep.
But we've changed a lot to what we were like last year. So they will know players or things that we do or some terminology if we haven't changed it, what that looks like. But, ballpoint, I think, Lee Matthews sort of said one time that I'll give you my game plan, just try and beat us. I think that's when you're a really good footy team, is when you can have your game plan, all the opposition scouts can say this is the way they play, try and stop it. So you'd love to get to that, and that's where we want to get to as a football club, where you can go, this is, rather than the finer details of that sort of stuff. But yeah, and I had my ex-premiership captain leave and played against him the following year. So I think most people have been there. Charlie, obviously, he was at Carlton. He knows what happens within those four walls. So it's not just the other way as well.
And so there you go. Have you picked Charlie's brain on how Carlton play?
I think the players, you certainly speak to them about, is there anything you've noticed that they have changed from, if we show you this sort of stuff, was this common last year? But you need to spend time. You speak to them more about individuals and how they deal with stuff, and how important are they to the way that they do structure stuff up. So it's more those finer details rather than, just what do they do? We can watch their games and work out the way they want to move the ball, how they defend, what they do with roles and players. So we spend a fair bit of time diving into that space.
Just touching on Charlie, how important do you think he's been for the development of Tom McCartan?
They've
just bashing each other all
left,
summer.
right and centre.
It's been great to watch.
I think, and that was the part about Charlie's, not only when he does it with Tommy, when he does it with Joel Amati and Hayden McLean and Logan McDonald and Will Edwards, if you talk a young key defender. So it's more about what makes these players great players is their training standards. And that's probably the thing that stood out the most when he got here, was how he dived into attacking every session as hard as he possibly could. And he did that really well, which brings others along, but also challenges them, tests them. And, hopefully he can have an important role in our team, but also improve the other ones as well.
So we got through a couple of pre-season matches. How nervous were you at quarter time when Errol came off and said, ankle? We knew at the time, on the bench anyway, that it was precaution and he was fine. But you were, from memory, upstairs when you had to come down. Were you a bit nervous when
I was
someone like Errol, after what happened last year?
Yeah, I think as soon as you see a physio run out to a player or a player not get up, it does. And the decision you're always thinking, certainly as a coach, is how do we get the players through, but also how do we get cohesion amongst our whole football team? And the balance between going, I need to play them, but I don't want them to get injured. it's a big year coming up. How many minutes do we have, and can we do it all together? We played players a fair bit the week before against the Bulldogs and backed them off a little bit at the back end of the game last week. But yeah, when the players come out and you're thinking, all right, Errol comes over. That was the first conversation and only conversation I wanted to have at quarter time. Really was.
Are you okay?
Everything. Is everything okay? And he was sort of we just chatted about how he's feeling, pros and cons, and then I just said, I'll take this decision out of your hands, and you're not playing for the rest of the game.
And you would also be looking ahead throughout the season where you have your longer breaks and shorter breaks, right? So that would all come into calculation working with the team downstairs, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, the monitoring of players is as strong as it's ever been, and it is as detailed as ever. We know exactly how many minutes they've done, distance they've done, high speed run, sprint distance, change of direction, everything. So where we sit compared to last year, years before, so every metric we can find, and that's why you've got to make sure that it is a long year, and you've got to make sure that you can build through the year and also be as fresh as you possibly can at the right times of seasons as well. So, that's why the minutes leading into the bye normally was before the first game of the year. We don't have that with opening round. So we have to sort of manage our way through the last couple of practice games as well as the 2 proper ones we play against other teams.
As Andre mentioned, without giving away too many trade secrets, what can Swans fans and members expect on Thursday night when it comes to some new faces in the 22?
Hopefully some faces
on the spot
from,
there, don't I?
Yeah.
Well, he just said he's going to give away the game plan to everyone before Thursday, so we've got to test the waters.
So hopefully
there.
some faces and players that we traded in have done everything they possibly can to represent our football club for the first time. If you talk about, obviously Charlie's and deservedly so, gets a lot of the talking points around new recruits, but we've been really happy with what Malcolm Roses has done, as well as obviously Jai. So the opportunity hopefully for them to represent this footy club early in the season is something we're really excited about. We acquired those players for a reason, and they've lived up to that ever since they got to the footy club. So those ones plus some other young kids hopefully can progress from the level they were at last year to even greater heights.
On a slightly disappointing note, BJ, how's he going?
Shattering news for BJ and also the footy club. I was absolutely wrapped with the preseason he'd had.
He looks good.
Fine, wasn't he?
It was. I thought he was going to get to a level where he really belonged in an AFL team, and it was a real key part of what we wanted to do. So, it is a setback. He's had them before. It's just now about finding out the best process about how we get him back as quickly but as safely as we possibly can. And, the next couple of weeks we'll work our way through speaking to all the experts around the country and the world about what that looks like, because what he's shown is, he's at that age now where he's developed and understands the way we want to play at a really high level, and can add for us, certainly when he comes back.
Lastly, we'll finish on this. 40,000 hopefully at the SCG on Thursday night. The
You're
march
missing
is
a few
back.
thousand, aren't you?
Yeah,
Hopefully
potentially.
more than 40.
You'd like
43
to think so.
or something.
You'd like to think
Nearest
so.
to the pin. How many we're going to get?
43,218.
I'll say 41,212.
I'll go 41 and a half.
All right.
Now back to your question.
I was going to ask, how
It's good that
excited do
you're
you
sitting
get?
on that
Pillow?
the beanbag just to raise your.
Well,
It's actually my
same
sore
height
back,
as Andre.
Dean, so thank you.
Is everything going
It's
okay?
behind me.
You might have
It's
to
not
get
under my
surgery, Dan.
bum.
It's a touchy subject. Let's not ask. He might have
We
to
wear
join the
Swans
injury
clothes
list.
as well when we come on here.
No.
Those are
We're
casual.
on brand, aren't we, Peach? Just in the background. Peach is nodding. We're on brand. You certainly are as well.
Yeah, just making sure.
Have you got Simon Goodwin's polo on, or has he stolen that from Tom Papley? Have you heard that
hoping,
story?
Yeah, I have. I'm hoping, and Pap still hasn't returned it.
Oh, really?
So
Controversial.
yeah, so he might not be playing opening round because of that.
I like the high standards. Just lastly, as I said, hopefully over 40,000 fans. The march is back. It is so exciting for the footy club. Everyone's got a bit of a spring in their step. What does it mean to you as a coach, not from a player's perspective, as a coach, walk into the SCG and just see a sea of red and white and the support that we have across the country.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I think, certainly from when I arrived to where it is now, and not only the spectacle at which obviously the March and opening round bring, but the supporters have been unbelievable. We understand what we have to deliver on now, and that's to provide the excitement that they expect. And I'm really confident this playing group can do it. So, it's get there as early as you can, scream and shout as loud as you possibly can.
Make some noise. And
then, I think perhaps might have said the other one just about the Sydney chant. It's unbelievable when it goes around the ground. And, we can't wait to hopefully for an exciting 2026.
Well, Coxy, it feels like it's been a long pre-season, but thanks for coming on this mini episode of More Than Footy, and good luck for Thursday night. We cannot wait.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Lee, and Bingley is proud to be a sponsor of the More Than Footy podcast. Before I get bounced by Dad, don't miss our weekly Binger deals on now at Bingley. Go the Swannies!
Good one, Jasmine.
Thanks, Nana.